Welcome, Wendl Kornfeld. Just amazing visionary from Temple. Well, in corroboration with Temple Manuel, she's created something that I'm so excited for us to hear about at CBST and think if it's something we want to try ourselves. I'll leave it right in your hands, Wendl, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so maybe just a little background of how Community as Family started. About 25 or more years ago, I took a certificate course called The Psychology of Aging. And in addition to all of the good stuff about getting older, we heard that there's going to be some challenges and changes and losses and things that come with getting older. And there was three things that very first class sparked my interest in learning more about getting older. And it actually led fairly directly to the formation of Community as Family. One was the teacher said, you know, when people get older, they follow the daughter. Okay, so what that meant was if you've got kids, chances are when the kids move, you're going to be moving with them. And especially if you have a daughter, the parents or parent will follow the daughter. Why? Because that's where most of the help might come from. So that was one thing I learned. That was very interesting. The second thing I learned was they said you need a couple of things in your tool belt if you're going to gracefully manage your older years. One of them was you're going to have to be resilient and have good coping skills. Very important because of all these changes coming. You've got to learn how to deal with them so that they don't become really tough. The second thing in your tool belt that you need is you're going to need a community. If you've never been involved in your community before, have not a wide variety of friends of different ages, that's going to make it tougher too. So, following the daughter. Well, I don't have any kids, far less a daughter, which meant a lot of this learning about getting older.
Wendl, you are currently muted.
Okay, all right.
There we go, now we hear you.
Okay, so again, with no daughter or adult child, I was gonna have to self-advocate, learn how to do things myself. In terms of the resilience and good coping skills, I had that already, but I wanted to learn more about how to really hone those. And the third part about having community, well, if you don't have a close family, community is really important. So by the time I retired in 2013, I started these groups of people without close family in people's homes. I did, I think, 5 of them, different groups. And we talked about what's it going to be like getting older without close family to kind of help out and bounce ideas off of and make major decisions. And these groups were so empowering for all of us, and we had such great ideas coming out of them that by the end of 2014, Temple Manuel, where I am a member, said, why don't you bring it to our congregation? I think we don't appreciate this demographic, and we'd like to know more and make it available. So that's how it started.
Are you ready for the slideshow?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, when the slides are being shown,
Mm-hmm.
you can move your gallery view all the way over if you want to one side, so you can see more people on the screen if that's something you enjoy.
Okay, so let's get to the slide called, there we go. So the basics of Community as Family. You get to meet with other people who have similar concerns about getting older alone, or aging solo, as it's often referred to. You don't have to feel embarrassed, you don't have to feel ashamed or scared. Lots of people are in the same boat, and we all want to talk about it. Finally say, oh yeah, I've been dying to talk about it because I worry about it. So it's a great way to have a safe place for people to talk about these concerns. We talk about things we can do in the short term for making sure that we're safe in our environment that we have what we need, that we can anticipate if things go wrong. So we have long-term and short-term strategies. And you can learn how to self-advocate. The third part is you will be encouraged to broaden your community relationships. Go out and do as many things and experience as many programs, classes, join a synagogue, you name it. Keep meeting people, build up a community, and develop relationships. And narrow it down if you can to like 3 or 4 people that can be your personal A-team. And that's going to come from your friends, your neighbors, some professionals, your colleagues if you work. But again, you need that personal A-team that is going to kind of be the role of that family that other people take for granted in their older years. And learning how to self-advocate comes from knowing what resources are available. And very important, how do they work? Because if you don't use them quite the right way or you don't understand it, they're not going to work to your best benefit. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so the synagogue's role for our synagogue, as I said, they really didn't realize how many people in our large congregation fell into the category of being in danger of aging out of their membership because there's so much, concentration on young families, and that is very, very important. But they wanted to make sure that we older people always had a place in the synagogue, and it wasn't just giving us, fun things to do. It was how can we empower this group, right? Until the pandemic, of course, we were meeting every month from 2014 in one of the meeting rooms, and the synagogue provided refreshments, a light dinner, and gave us a nice big table to sit around, like a dinner table for a family. And very often, one of the rabbis sits with us, and she's very engaged in this program, and would help us encourage deeper engagement in all of the synagogue's activities. And that would promote friendship and build up community. And, we started being there for each other, helping each other find jobs, being there for Shiva calls, sitting together at services. And the synagogue also made sure that besides the rabbinical enthusiasm and support, that we had administrative support for everything. They virtually never say no to anything I ask. When I say, could we do this? Could we have this? What about? They are very, very receptive. So we're very fortunate. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the most important things of community as family is we want to be prepared for these, what I call what-if scenarios, because if you're aging solo, you got to make sure that certain things are in place. You got that safety net there, and that will give you peace of mind later, believe me. So a lot of you just learned about the healthcare proxy and the living will, so I don't need to tell you what that is. But I can tell you that I keep a copy of mine on my fridge door, just in case, because that's where EMS and the fire department go if ever there is a sick or non-responsive person in an apartment. So there's that copy. I also have a copy of my healthcare proxy and living will on my phone, and I can email it to someone or text it to someone if necessary. You also would need to have a financial power of attorney in place. Again, should you be in the position where you can't make financial decisions for yourself, I think a lot of us would feel a little frightened about what would happen to our assets and worry about late fees and worse happening. So it's important to get your financial power of attorney in place, which is you assign someone to do any number of financial things on your behalf, just in case you cannot. And last, of course, is what everyone knows, the last will and testament. If you care about your belongings, if you care about the assets and savings and investments, if you care about what happens to your body, I mean, all of this needs to be put in a legal form that conforms with your state regulations. And yeah, this is hard to think about. And yeah, it's not cheap to have lawyers draw these up properly. And again, I stress properly, because you want to make sure it conforms to all the state regulations. You don't want to leave a mess for anybody, an executor, or for your power of attorney. So again, all of these things are an investment in your peace of mind. Judy, do you have any question or comment at this point before we continue?
I don't have any questions, but I see someone posted something in the chat, and you're welcome to, by the way, post things. Shayna, you asked, is there a special training available to starting a community as family group?
Yes, there is, because I have been setting up groups around the country since 2014. I have developed several documents and forms, and I will personally train a facilitator. And first we'll talk about what your community is like. It can be just you and 2 or 3 of your friends, or it could be, again, a whole synagogue and anything in between.
We hope to do this at CBST, but I know some people are living outside of CBST. And once outside of CBST, so I think that's where the question comes from as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, what do you do if you don't have a person that you trust for financial power of attorney? That's from Julia Porper. Thanks.
This is a really good question, and it's a very, very popular question. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, there's no magic bullet. I can't say X, Y is the way to go and do it. It will be fine. There are some things that are tougher. And of course, finding that person that you would trust to be your financial power of attorney is, in my experience, the toughest one, not just for me, but for most of my friends. You really have to look at all the people you know, and at a certain point, you may need to rely on professionals to do this. Again, it's going to have to be a professional that you trust a great deal.
I know that you don't need a lawyer for a healthcare proxy, but Ruthie Berman, do you want to unmute yourself and talk about having someone to connect to other people?
Okay.
Can you do that, Ruthie? Yes, hi, Ruthie, in Florida, I believe, right?
I'm grateful. I have 3 children, grandchildren, etc., etc. My children are the power of attorney. We worked it out. Who does the healthcare? Who does this? I want to leave. I don't want to be sick. Blah, 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 blah. However, one is in Chicago, one is in New York, and one is in Boise. What happens if something happens to me? I have friends. I have 4 friends in different parts of my life. Should I be non-communicative? They have the phone numbers and the address of all my children, including my lawyer. So you need somebody who's around you. If you have the person who's supposed to do all the legal documents and is away, you need the person near you who will get in touch with them.
Yes, Ruthie, thank you. That is excellent, because you have created what I call your personal A-team, and you're absolutely right. There's nothing like having that person who's right there, who can either do things immediately or get in touch with people immediately. So good for you. You're blessed to have children, and you're blessed to have friends like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendell, let's take one more question.
Sure.
Lori Siegel, you have a response to somebody. Maybe you could share that with us, what the question was and what your answer is. Well, no answer, but the question.
Okay, my question is, it's one thing to put something on a cell phone. However, most cell phones are protected by passwords, which means outsiders by and large can't get in. What's the response to that?
Okay, if that's a good question, and the answer to that is, there is on probably most cell phones, certainly on iPhones, and this is something I've learned only fairly recently, so I'm going to give you only what I know so far. In the manual, it showed how you can set up a emergency contact information without the phone needing to be unlocked. And I suggest that you, if you don't have the user's manual in hard copy, as I have for my phone, that you go online, type in that question, and you will find a way for them to access that. Good question.
Thank you, Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
So Wendy, let's go back to priorities.
Okay, so I think, yeah, so the priorities to just get yourself started is to be prepared for these really big what-if scenarios, because those are things that have such great, possibly negative ramifications if it's not in place, that you want to get these done. And believe me, you will find yourself feeling so much better that they are done, because why? You have a plan in place now. All right, can we go to the next one, please?
Jason, can you?
There we go.
Thanks.
All right, what else can I do right now? All right, so other things you can do right now. We talked about how I have added the healthcare proxy to my fridge door. As I said, EMS and the fire department, not just in New York, but I believe across the country, they go to the fridge door to see who is living in that domicile and the immediate important information that they're going to need to know, just in case the person who lives there can't communicate at the moment. All right, maybe you passed out, whatever. But definitely, and we'll talk more about what that fridge card is. What's on the fridge card is often the same thing you should be keeping in your wallet. Someone asked before about, do they check your wallet? Yes, yes, yes. You want to make sure that in your wallet, there is the information that you need. Your doctor, and don't forget your medical insurance, that's a card, believe me. Your age, everything, who your next of kin is, who your emergency contact is. The same information that's on your fridge door is probably going to be in your wallet. And don't forget about pets, very important. If you have pets, and we know pussycats like to hide if someone strange comes into the house. All right, so EMS and the fire department, if they have to take you to the hospital and you're going to be there for a while, they won't know that there is an animal waiting to be fed and or walked later. So make sure that people know, and ideally you have a neighbor who can come in and at least take care of that pet for the immediate. I also suggest you prepare a household handbook. Household handbook is a form that I created, and it's a snapshot of how your life runs. It's how your bills are paid, where you keep all your vital documents, how your financial assets are invested, and so much more. There's many, many categories, but again, it's a snapshot of how your life works, all right? Museum memberships, subscriptions, everything you can imagine. Having all of that information in one place is invaluable to anyone who has to pick up the reins on your life, either if you're, hurt or ill and can't do it, or if you have passed, again, your executor will bless your name forever by you leaving them a great household handbook. I've set many people up with it, and they all say, my kids, my friend, whatever, is so grateful. This is just what they needed. So if people want to know more about that, I'm sure that can be arranged. I have two sets of friends who have set up, one set has set up a texting tree. For the past 4 or 5 years, at 10 a.m. every day, the three of them text each other. These are people in their 80s. They text each other and say, I'm around, everything's fine, I went to the theater last night, whatever, but they check in at 10 a.m. and they have a process in place whereby if they don't hear from somebody by a certain time, like noon, something like that, they try again. And then again, if there is no answer by a certain time, no text coming back, they have worked out something about either calling the doorman or the adult child of one of them. But again, these three women love this because they all live alone at the moment, and they feel that at least someone knows who I am, where I am, and what's going on with me. The other three friends do it by phone, and they do it at night, but same thing. So you might want to think about having something like that in place. Certainly, if you have someone on your A team as a neighbor, trusted friend, and it'd be nice if they can have a key to your home. Again, trust, very important, but a good friend, they know under what conditions they can and can't use it. But again, so if somebody needs to get in your home to take care of a pet or to pick up the mail, any number of things, you want to make sure that somebody has access. And again, stash a stay bag and a go bag. Okay, what's that? After 9/11, I think a lot of us took training on go bags. I know I took at least 3 courses and at different places. And it made us think of really worst case scenarios, but it could be a hurricane, not just terrorism or something, but it could be a hurricane. It could be a major power blackout. Again, in some cases for one of these emergency situations, either you're going to have to stay where you are for some time, you can't go out, or you're going to have to leave immediately. And again, there are ways to prepare for that so that under an emergency situation where we're all thinking crazy or not thinking at all, at least you got something in place to get you started. And I think we have another slide. Next slide.
Yep, I think that's it now, the fridge and wallet cards.
Okay, so yeah, the fridge and wallet cards. So it's pretty obvious, your name, your date of birth, your gender identity. You want your address and all your phone numbers on it, your emergency contacts, how to get to them, and put down everything, just in case the email doesn't work or the text doesn't work or the phone number. As long as you got plenty of information about who your emergency contacts are. You definitely want to have your medical insurance information, either a copy of your card. You should always carry a copy of your card, if not the card itself. I'll tell you a story of something that happened to a friend just within the past 6 months. She fell and broke a bone, broke her arm while we were out and about. And we called the ambulance, take her to the hospital. And I said, do you have your medical card? Because once you're in the emergency room, they're gonna start asking you all sorts of questions about your insurance and stuff. And she went, oh, I never take my medical insurance card with me. I always keep it at home. And I said, well, you know, you could get sick or have an accident outside your apartment. She said, so I found out. So I do urge you to bring that. The doctors at the hospital will, and the administrators will be very happy that you're prepared. Also on your fridge and wallet card, put down your most severe medical conditions or allergies, something that needs maybe instant attention or attention under certain conditions. You want to put down your primary care doctor and all of the contact info there. And again, let's not forget about our furry friends, just in case. There was, again, you know, I learned from everybody. I learned from people who did things right, and then I build that into my work. And then you learn from people who are like just the worst examples you can imagine. And you know, the worst scenario for one of my friends is she got hit by a car. She lived, she's fine, but she was kind of out of it for a day or so, and they didn't realize that there was a pet at home. And you know, the pet ended up okay too, but again, it could have been a much different story. So again, it's all about thinking about worst case scenarios, but having that peace of mind, knowing that you got some plans in place, it goes a long way. Then you can go out and really enjoy your life.
Thank you, Wendl. Anything else you wanted to add right now?
Not at the moment. I'd love to hear more questions or comments.
Okay, I'll put some questions in the chat if you would. It makes it a little bit easier. If you can't write, raise your hand and I'll try to find you on the screen. Go to participants. Ruthie, did you have a question or a comment? Just take yourself off mute then.
Am I muted?
No, now you're good. You're good.
Okay, I made 2 comments here. Okay. In Palm Beach County, we have what's called a yellow dot.
Mhm.
Put it in the rear view, in the rear of our window of our car.
Okay, I'm
So
writing
that
this down.
People know this information is in the what's that place that we keep stuff in the car? That
The
is-
glove compartment?
Yeah, that information is there just in case we're in a car accident and God forbid. So that's very important that we
That's
do.
great. That's a great tip for people in a car community, yeah.
And also we have, because I live in a condo and separated Century Village, if you live in a condo and if you have a president or whatever, I made up a list of people of these things that you don't give out all the information, but it's very important to give out the information of who to call, who has your key, give a key in your building.
Ruthie, you're a star.
Well, I would also like you to help me out here because I think I should start these things here in Century. It's vital.
All
We
right.
have a lot of single, alone people.
Okay.
If
All
you're
right.
interested in being in touch with Wendl, email me or call me. My number will be on the last slide, and I think I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Ruthie.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Michael Levine, I see your hand up.
Hello, thank you. I'd like to go back to something you covered very early in your presentation, which was expanding friendship groups and other groups that you socialize with as you get older, whether you're alone or in my case, I'm married, but I do like reaching out to other people. At CBST, we started several years ago a senior group that met during the day, and we'd have guest speakers and lunches. But prior to the pandemic, as the years went on, and Rabbi Rapport, who I believe is in this room with us, will attest to the fact that we began to lose attendance. People didn't seem to be interested in coming, and these are retired people, during the week to be together for a social program or a luncheon. And it's only the pandemic that has brought us back together again through Zoom and through other webinars. What advice do you have about keeping a group of seniors who are retired together, assuming the pandemic will be over someday? What advice do you have about how we keep a senior group going live and face-to-face so that we know the people in our friendship group? How can we revive that again? If you have any thoughts about that after the pandemic.
Okay. Well, that's a big question. But certainly, I believe that, if you build what they want, they will come, all right? And having a theme is very important. That's why community is family, even though we do have people with family and have good relationships with their family, they say, I'm still living alone, the kids are elsewhere. All right, so I say to them, as long as you understand that our focus is on how to self-advocate and create a personal A-team, then you are most welcome. So I talk about why you need something that really unifies people. What is it? Is it just the membership in the synagogue that you have in common? Can you narrow it down to something a little tighter so that there's real buy-in and interest of everyone being on that page and wanting to contribute to that topic or to whatever that thing is that does bind you. Once the pandemic is over, certainly you can arrange for day trips, I hope. At Congregation Emmanuel, we don't meet in the summer. This was back when we could meet in person. We didn't meet in the summer for the monthly meetings. However, the synagogue made sure that at least once during the summer, they would throw us a little brunch, and then we would get a tour of, like last year, we had a tour of the Museum of the City of New York, and It was just our group, so we got lots of attention. And because that museum is right across the street from Central Park at the Conservatory Gardens, I am, for the past 10 years, I work in Central Park. So I was able to take the whole gang across the street and gave them a tour of the northern end of Central Park. So creating things that are a little different from time to time, I think also engages people's interest. All right, so commonality of purpose, commonality of interest, and shake it up and do something a little wild and crazy and different now and again, I think would be a start.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wendl, there's a question here from Jordy. Mark, what about qualified and trustworthy help at home, like nursing home aides, and how do we connect with younger people?
Okay. Okay, remember I said before, there are some things that are really, really tough. Connecting with younger people can be really, really tough because we're just not put in these situations where there's kind of a natural way for us to be together and develop what I would call a mutually beneficial relationship. Not impossible, but it does get harder as we get older. And boy, is it important to have younger people in our lives. Because if everyone is our age or older, our support tends to start to dwindle or they develop their own problems. So having younger people as part of your A-team and part of your community, really important. Certainly, I would say if there are people in your building that you have gotten friendly with, I'm going to tell you the ones that I know that work. I have friends who said their younger person lives in their building, a neighbor that they've just become friendly with. Another one said, my surrogate daughter, the daughter I always wished I'd had, I met her at the gym. We were working out all the time at the same time in the same equipment. We went out for coffee afterwards, and for the past 6 years, she has the adult daughter of her dreams. Another person meets younger people by taking classes and courses. Again, you want to do things where you're going to see the same people over and over because it's not one and done. That's how you're going to build the relationship. All right, so that's the younger people. In terms of bringing people into your home, that's another toughie because that industry, home health care aides, et cetera, that industry was in a crisis mode beforehand, and not just because of immigration, but there are problems with it. Very often these people work incredibly hard. They're not paid very much. They don't have chance for advancement. You don't always get the same person back. So there isn't continuity. Definitely this is going to be looked at by all parties, I think, really hard as the pandemic wanes and hopefully, please God, goes away. Because if you don't want to go in a nursing home, and I mean, raise hand, who wants to go to a nursing home? If you don't want to do that, if you can't afford or don't like the idea of a senior community, we're going to want to age in place, as it's called. And again, if you need, special help, you want to know that you're bringing in people that can be trusted, and most of all, who care what happened to you. You want them to care what happens to you. And that really is the difference between paid care and having friends. You can pay someone to care about you, to care for you, but you can't pay people to care about you. So I wish I had a quick, happy answer about home health care. There are good agencies out there. There are good people there. Sometimes it's luck, it's referrals, but this is a little tough.
Thank you, Wendl. A question for Rafaela. What Jewish or LGBTQ communities can help us if we cannot afford lawyers for writing wills or burial arrangements, etc.? I know a great organization, and Wendl, you might have something to add, the New York Legal Assistance Group.
That's the one I was going to mention, NYLAG. Yes, New York Legal Assistance Group. They do, and Judy, you probably know a bit more. I've only gone to one of their meetings. They invited me about a year or so ago, and it was fascinating. But these are attorneys who can and do provide legal guidance for people of lower income. And that is certainly something that I think that's where people should go first. They also might want to go to DFTA, which is shorthand for the Department for the Aging of the City of New York. DFTA has so many departments of so many services that they can provide older people, especially those with limited income, and that is a great resource.
Thank you. There's also the Jewish Board. It used to be called the Jewish Family and Children's Service. The Jewish Board just got a big grant to help people during COVID, and I think it's flexible, so you might be able to ask those questions there. But if you reach out to NILAG and you don't find what you need, let me know. Maybe I have some other information. Ken asked.
Judy, I just want to jump in.
Yes, Rabbi.
Thank you, Wendy, so much for this
Wendl.
presentation. There are some very specific issues also for LGBT older folks, especially as it comes to institutional homophobia and bringing people into our homes. And the issue about aides who are homophobic, we've had some very serious issues with that. And Jewish homes, whether they're assisted living or nursing homes, where we've had situations where people have had to go back into the closet in order to get services as an older person. And that's an issue we've been working on, and Roseanne knows about these things, and we've been working on. But that's the reason that Judy is now on the staff of CBST, is our commitment to helping develop social service access for members of the synagogue. But I think, as you said, there is no quick fix. But somebody who's LGBT and aging has to face profound homophobia on top of some of these other issues in accessing help and care, and issues around that.
Yes,
And
thank
one
you
of the
for
re-
mentioning that.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons we want to develop these programs from within CBST is to have the added prism and perspective of thinking about what it's like. I'll never forget when Dick Radvin was in, and now I can't remember which place, and we had
Village.
no, that's where he was, where he died, but he was somewhere before that, where there was a total homophobic nurse that we had to really deal with, and he, now I can't remember which place it was. But this is a real issue, and these are real issues, and it's true within the Jewish institutions, which is one of the reasons SAGE is so important. And SAGE is starting to work, but SAGE has its limits also. There is no, there's no perfect solution. But one of the reasons we want Judy Ribnick here on our staff at CBST helping.
Feels like a little bit turned in.
Folks, you have to mute yourself. We hear you. Please mute yourself.
Jason, can you mute for us?
Not
Thanks.
entirely. It's hard. People have to mute themselves. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So that's another layer of complexity for us, and that's why it's very important institutionally what Judy Ribnick is going to be doing. But if people have, Judy's going to help kind of get to the access to some of these places, and we have to build the resources, which is why we have this whole aging task force at CBST, in CBST to be the filter. When I first came to CBST, one of my big jobs was to call all different access points, whether it was dealing with Moalim in New York City. I sent out a letter to 127 different Moalim in the tri-state area saying, how will you treat my gay and lesbian congregants? 3 responded that they were willing to treat people equally. And that's part of the job of the synagogue, is to deal with the profound homophobia within the Jewish institutions so that our folks can get access with a little bit of advocacy on these issues.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
Rabbi, so much.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I am familiar with SAGE. I have gone to many of their presentations. I do have an acquaintance there, and I was aware of the bias against people. So definitely, there are things that everybody can benefit from community as family, but you've brought up a very, very important extra layer to that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that Ken asked a question earlier, Wendl.
Mm-hmm.
In the groups, the community as family group meetings you have you discussed ethical wills, our non-tangible legacy?
We haven't discussed it for 2 reasons. Number one, there's also another group at Congregation Emmanuel called Club 65. And I had gone to a presentation elsewhere about ethical wills. And I thought this would be a great topic for, of interest to the people at Club 65, which was also a learning group at synagogue. And there was not a lot of interest. I was surprised. So I did not bring it up at Community as Family for the additional reason that we don't have a family to leave these ethical wills to. There is certainly a lot of things that we would like to put into it, I'm sure. There are things you would like to write and leave behind. But if you don't have kids or grandkids or another younger generation to leave this wisdom, this nostalgia, these memories to, it's just not as meaningful. But I think for people with families, it's a fabulous idea, and I think everybody should do it.
I just want to say at CBST, all of us have families. Some of us have families with children. Some of us have families of choice that are only other adults, but we all have families. So I just want to be very careful about how you talk about language inside our community, which is another example. Most of our members don't have children, but that doesn't mean we don't have families.
That's true. Some people, though, and yes, thank you for bringing that to my attention. For the most part, I'm talking about people that don't even have nieces and nephews.
We define family in a much more broad sense. And I think it would be interesting, Judy, for us to think about people writing ethical wills to a next generation of CBST members, even if they're not within their own families of choice or families of origin, but just the idea of how do we pass on communally wisdom from one generation in the LGBT community to another.
Nice idea.
There are ways to think about that without thinking about nuclear or traditional definitions of family.
I think that's a nice idea. Yeah.
Thank you. And Judy, Mark reminds us that the Lesbian History Archives have been doing that for a while. I think that we have time for just one more question, but I want to ask a question first. For everybody on here today, are you interested in learning more about Community as Family as something to pursue at CBST? Just put in the chat, yes, no, maybe, etc., and we'll be exploring that more. So are you interested in creating the kind of forum that Wendl is talking about? Thank you. Whether you live near or far, by the way. Okay, Ruthie, I see your hand up. We're going to give you the last question.
It's not a question.
Comment.
It's an answer to the rabbi's issue in relationship to the homophobia and the treatment that caregivers give, okay? Here in Palm Beach County, I won't go into the history, but Rabbi, I will write to you what we do. At our campus, which is our community center, we have a consciousness raising program for these people who are doing care. The home care people that I'm on the board with, everyone who works for them must take this certification of consciousness raising about LGBT people and how we ought to be treated before they send somebody out to us. So I think it's very important, Rabbi, since you want to do something like this, let's get together and whenever, after your vacation, I will get you the information. It is extremely important.
Sage got a grant from UJA a couple of years ago. I'm very close with Michael Adams, who's the CEO, ED of Sage. And we worked very hard that Sage got a grant from UJA to work with the Jewish institutions that are funded by UJA. So there was a little bit of a carrot and a stick there to kind of create a credentialing process by which their staffs, so that project was started a few years ago. I'm not actually sure, and Judy, I think this would be something for us to investigate, what the stage is of that. And I know that Michael Adams and I had long talks about this, and Sage was going to work with UJA to kind of credential, to say, if all of your staff, and this is not for AIDS coming into homes in particular, this is for Jewishly funded institutions and homes, independent living, assisted living, and nursing homes throughout New York City. And I'm not sure the stage of that project, but we launched it a few years ago, but I haven't kept track of it. But you're absolutely right, Ruthie. There's a lot of work to be done on this. And this is one of the reasons that we are so grateful to have Judy Ribnick here. We have an address inside of CBST to help keep all of these ideas moving and to develop it exactly right with the flavor of what it means to be the particular aging issues related to LGBTQ, which the Jewish community as a whole has completely ignored. And the only place that these questions are really happening are within CBST. So now we have Judy Ribnick, who has the experience of the Jewish community and the knowledge of all these resources. And one of the reasons we're so happy about this day of learning is that everybody can get a sense of what Judy's role is, that she's available to help people negotiate some of these things individually. And Judy is bringing Wendy to CBST. And now we can, within CBST, create a similar program with the CBST, deeper understanding of the LGBT community than what exists in the larger Jewish community. So it's a fantastic opportunity to take the deep learning that Wendy's bringing and combine it with Judy's leadership and all of us. And I think we could have a fantastic program here. So Wendy, I'm very, very grateful to you for your teaching.
Thank you. Everybody, just call me, find me. Let me know what you're thinking about, where the world outside is falling short, where CBST can grow stronger. Wendl, I want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. You're so generous. People have already asked, can I get this document or that document from you? Everybody, I'll speak with Wendl to get her, to see what Wendl's willing to share. But so far, she's been so generous, not only with her time today, but teaching us all, and just so committed to this this idea that we can be connected in so many ways together.
I'm thrilled. I am absolutely thrilled by the opportunity to meet so many of your fellow congregants and friends, and I look forward to continuing the dialogue. And again, you've made my community bigger today, and for which I thank you.
Thank you. Everybody have like just 2 minutes to get a cup of coffee again or to stretch before lunch. There'll be a short survey, you'll see that, but we're all going to go back to the main room again. Hopefully that link will be posted. Jason, are you there?
If you're looking for Judy's contact information, I have reposted in the chat. Please look there for her email address and her direct line.
And Jason, can you repost the link for us to get back to the main room again, to the sanctuary, so to speak? Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
and
bye-bye.
Wendl, thank you so much. Rabbi.
Hi, Wendl, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.